Welcome to another episode of the Distributed Data Show, brought to you by DataStax Academy, where we bring you the latest news and interview technical experts to help you succeed in building large-scale distributed systems.
Bonjour et bienvenue pour un nouvel épisode des Distributed Data Show. Aujourd'hui, nous allons introduire un pattern d'architecture assez connu qui s'appelle le feature toggle.
Je ne comprends pas. Dude, this is the English version?
Oh, sorry. Let's start again.
Okay. Welcome to another episode of the Distributed Data Show. I'm David Gilardi. This is Cedric Lunven, and one of our new evangelists. And today we are digging into feature flags. So before we do that, why don't you give us some background info about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm newcomer in the team, right? I've been working in the software development for 15 years now. I'm quite a nerd on Java development and distributed technologies. I had a couple of positions in the past, like technical leader, solution architect, and even pre-sales.
Oh.
Yes, it happens. I work on different contexts, mostly on middlewares, integration middleware,
Okay.
like broker of message, ESB, ETL, stuff like that, both package vendors and open source,
Oh, wow. Okay.
but also on the data tiers, implementing large scale repositories to work on trades on the financial bank.
Okay, that's a lot of good stuff. And welcome, by the way, to the evangelist team.
Thank you for that.
Yes. So could you remind us, what is a feature toggle or a feature flag?
Yes, sure. You did right. It's named feature toggle, feature flag, feature flipping some other times.
Okay.
And basically, it's the capability for an application or a system to enable or disable features at runtime
Okay.
without any need to restart, stuff like that.
That's cool. That's useful.
Yes, we use that from years now. It's now more and more famous due to Martin Fowler, who
Okay.
introduced us in an article in 2011, speaking about feature flags and give the name to a practice we already use for years. So you will enable or disable your features through a UI, mostly a web UI,
Okay.
pushing a button to enable or disable. But it's not the only way to enable the features. You can think about batches or any kind of application without any UI. So you have to also to provide extra toolings like a CLI or the GMX stuff, an API to be able to enable like that from the command line.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So how does it work? You will define a list of features, each identify with a unique name. Okay.
Okay.
And you will start to put some conditions here and there in your source code, if then else. And at runtime, we'll evaluate the predicate, evaluate the state of the features, and know if we need to execute the code or not.
Oh, so this is something that, like, once you have some of these, the feature toggles implemented, right, then at runtime you can kind of switch them on and off and kind of pick and choose, essentially.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And you can choose using if then else, which is the basic stuff, but it will introduce some technical depth, because at a point in time you would like to remove your features because it's temporary. So to do better, you can use aspect-oriented programming, provided two implementation and let the framework inject the correct implementation at runtime.
Okay.
Pretty easy to then clean the technical depth. Just have to remove the wrong implementations.
Okay. That's pretty good. That sounds extremely useful, because I'm thinking about some cases in the past where I have seen feature toggles in place and they were all using if then else's, and you're absolutely right that those became deprecated a lot of times very quickly, right? And it would a lot of times contribute to say code bloat, if you will.
Yes. I see that pattern all over the place. Use AOP will clean your code for sure.
Cool. Okay.
Second message, very important, is features is not only a flag, not only a boolean.
Okay.
To your features, you will attach a strategy to flip. It's the strategy pattern. You will define a predicate. You will implement your own rules to know if a feature should be enabled or not.
Okay.
And this way you can have business logic to know if a feature is enabled or not.
Oh.
We'll see later. I will explain some of the strategy I put in place.
Okay.
So this kind of pattern is used mostly in the continuous delivery movement, okay, where release is a non-event. It has been introduced because when you need to release every day your code, and in the same time there is multiple people working on the same source code, you have two strategies. First is to use feature branch. Everybody is working on his own branch and commit, and once ready, we will merge all the branch. But you know, it's a nightmare to merge this kind of stuff.
Especially on large teams with huge code bases and everything.
Exactly, and this is the reason why the trunk-based development has been introduced. Everybody working on the trunk. But then you can imagine that if somebody releases a version and you're not ready, your not ready code will be pushed into productions, which is not what we want. So we put a feature flag here to not execute your code that is not ready.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yes.
It gives you like a little safety blanket.
Exactly. Okay. But still, I don't like it because it appears the feature flag are just a trick, a tips, and it's really a technical depth here.
Yep.
So, but there is so much use case that we can implement using feature toggles that are not tricks and really real life use case.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. So we're on the Distributed Data Show, right? So
sure.
Yeah, it is true. We are on the Distributed Data Show. So could you maybe give us some real life use cases on distributed systems? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, sure. I have plenty. So let's dig into one or two maybe. Okay. We are on a distributed system. So let's imagine we have now more than 3 nodes in a cluster.
Okay.
Yes, because less than 3 nodes is not distributed, right? Okay, so now we have at least 3 nodes, and you want to release a new version of your application.
Okay.
And of course, you don't want to have any downtime. You have to make your release with the ZDD, zero downtime deployment.
Okay.
So what will you do? Most of the time, you will perform a rolling update.
Right.
So you will shut down one of the node, release your application, start the node, shut down the second one, and then.
Okay.
But if you do like that, at a point in time, even if you really if you pick attention on that, at a point in time, you have the node 1, which has the version n+1, and a node 3, which has version n.
Okay.
And node 2 is shut down. So your cluster is not consistent anymore.
Right.
At a point in time, if you have more than 2 nodes, you have inconsistent clustering.
Well, yeah, especially if you have pretty large clusters, right? I can see that being a real problem.
Exactly.
Right.
So what can you do with feature flag? You can release your new version, n+1, but the new features are not enabled. They are toggle off.
Right.
Perform the whole upgrade of all nodes.
Okay.
And when everything in body is ready, just push the button and all nodes will upgrade.
So it sounds like that upgrade path is a lot faster than if you were to go through and try to do rolling upgrades to try to do the same thing. Okay.
Yes, and you know what? If you fail your release, but it never happened, right? But if you fail your release, just push again a button and the application go back to version N. No rollback anymore.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes a ton of sense. Okay.
Okay, but it's not the only use case about distributed system. And another one could be the circuit breaker. Maybe you already heard about that. It's mean when a resource is no more available.
Okay.
You don't want your system to crash and don't respond to your service. So you have some graceful degradation. If the DB is not more available, maybe you will use to the cache and work with the cache even if the DB is not available. Okay, if you think about that, you can see that this test, checking if the DB is available and if not, use the cache, is a kind of flag, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So secret breaker is a pattern of feature flags.
Okay.
When the system will disable the flag by itself, it will detect a failure, disable the flag, and it will put at a secret breaker.
Okay.
When you notice that, you can fix your system and just toggle on again the features. No release anymore, no upgrade, and the system is back again.
So I assume that that's the kind of thing like that circuit breakers, most likely you'd probably have some logging or some kind of event system or something that kind of notifies you or alerts you and says, hey, circuit breaker was just tripped or something like that.
Yes, most of the time is by handling exceptions.
Yeah.
You will catch the global exception and then toggle off this kind of features if not available anymore.
Okay.
And there are a lot of use cases. I said before that for features, it's not only a Boolean, it's a Boolean plus a strategy. And you will define your own rules to know if the features is enabled or not. I have a couple of strategies.
Okay.
You can think about the role-based access strategy, RBAC strategy.
Okay.
It's named Canary Release. You will deploy your N+1 version, but you will open the new features only for your beta tester.
Oh, is that canary in the coal mine kind of canary release? Is that what
Something
that
like
is?
that.
Like if it fails, your canary dies, your beta testers are,
Yeah, something like that. But if it
That's
succeeds, just open the features for everyone. No need to release at all. You can do that. A/B testing is another way of strategy to test if you want to enable or not. Maybe a last one. It's called Dark Launch. You have a new version, but
Sounds ominous.
Yes, you have a new version, but you are not sure if the new version will block the production because it's too intensive in resource. Use too much resource, too much CPU. So you would like maybe 10% of your request using the new features.
Oh, that's totally
and
cool.
check, analyze if the features is impacting the performance or not. And you can move the cursor from 10, 30, 50.
So you have that UI empowered or something like
exactly,
that?
Exactly.
Oh,
In the UI,
nice.
you can enable or disable features, but you can also update the strategy. And the system will react in real time. No need to restart anything.
That's cool. Yeah, okay, that's very cool. So now, I heard you created a reference library to implement feature flags, right?
Yes.
So why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
Yes. So let's go back in 2012. I used to work in a company named Octo Technology, and we wrote a book named The Web Giant Pattern, with pattern used in GAFA companies to produce successful softwares. Okay. There are a couple of patterns like feature teams, continuous delivery. At that time, was quite new. Yeah. Design for failure was not as much popular as now. So we created that book, and feature flipping, feature toggle was part of that book. And at that time, I noticed that there wasn't any library to implement that stuff. Okay. And to be honest, my CTO told me it's so simple to check a Boolean that you don't have to implement a library. You can anybody can implement the things, and that's it. Yes, but nevertheless, I started in 2013, created Start Small to go big.
Right, yeah.
Yes, and started, as you would do, put the flags in the properties or init files, put in the memory, check at runtime, and if you shut down the application, everything is lost. So pretty soon, I created a way to externalize the feature state in a dedicated database. External storage, JDBC, relational database, and of course provide the web console to enable or disable at runtime. Right. That was the first version, and it was pretty well.
What did your CTO think of that? Did you?
Yes. Still, he was not believe that I implement what he expects. So nothing more, nothing less. Okay. So he was happy, but there's no silver bullet feature here. Okay. So I improve the framework and start to create some new stuff. Like features is not only part of your backend code. It can also be part of the UI. So I created some tags in the
Yeah,
UI,
yeah,
GSP
definitely.
UI, provide some REST API for JavaScript to be able to
Oh,
use
cool.
the state, and also some JavaScript client library to use all that stuff and to make your UI, your backend align on the features.
So I'm curious about the tags. So did you essentially have a set of specialized tags that you use that when you toggled features, it would implement or it would enable or disable certain UI components or something?
Exactly.
Okay.
Back at that time, it was what we call the tag lib for the GSP. It's all Java, right?
Okay.
So I put a new tag, and it will enable show or hide part of your screen.
That's cool. Okay. Nice.
And more and more user then, and users start to asking me about new databases, because it was all about JDBC and Postgre and
Right,
Oracle
right.
and stuff like that. And I was asked to add database like Cassandra, Redis, MongoDB, Neo4j, Couchbase. And today we have about 15 implementation of 15 different DB to store the feature state.
Oh wow.
So I had to think quite a lot about the data model, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And speaking about data model, if you imagine that you have your features and feature state in your DB,
Okay.
adding the strategies, adding roles, adding metadata,
Right.
and now we have a proper entity for features, not only a simple record, just an object. And at a point in time, I say, if I put the feature state in the DB and any kind of DB, I can also put maybe the configurations, the keys of your application to set up your applications. You know, you all using properties or XML files
Okay.
at that time.
Right.
Now
right.
maybe you will use something like etcd or console, as you do in Killer Video.
Right.
But at that time, that was not the case. So I create a property store, and you can now store your properties in the 15 implementation.
Oh wow.
And Redis, console, etcd are part of the implementation. So you can definitely do that.
I kind of wish that. And funny enough, at a previous company I worked at, we did use feature flags and feature toggles, but we didn't have your library. I wish we had your library. This would have been awesome. So, I mean, do you have any architecture insights, takeaways, or anything? Things you learned
Oh,
from this, or
yes,
what?
I've quite a lot, because I work quite a lot. Maybe just as the framework is at execution of each features,
Okay.
you can log which feature has been executed, right?
Yes.
So you can push event each time a feature is executed. Okay, so now you know what I mean. You can provide out-of-the-box analytics,
Yeah.
provide all the UI, all the search to do which kind of features are used in my application and which are not, and who is the people that are using the features,
Yeah.
using the role-based strategy. So do not do anything, just only using the framework, you can have the analytics part.
Yeah. That's neat.
But as you said, in your code, if each time you need to execute a features, you query your DB to know what is the state. You will introduce an overhead, because
Yeah.
you have to query your database,
Yeah, absolutely.
get there. And at a point in time, especially if you use the REST API, you have some latencies to get your feature state. So we need to put a caching layer, obviously distributed caching, because you do not want your nodes to be not consistent.
Right.
And you would like to, when you disable features, all the node will disable the features at the same time to be consistent.
Right.
So I put a caching layer using Gcache.
Okay.
So immediate compatibility with Terracotta, InfiniSpan, and all caching, implementing the Gcache specification.
Okay.
So this one a big improvement, and this particular features is used in French administration tax website.
Oh, really?
The government website.
That's awesome.
With 60 million people using it, using the caching features to have a landing page and use different service based on feature flags on the library FFRG.
That's wow. Wow. Okay. What else? What other insights you got?
Oh,
I know you got more. I know.
Yeah,
I can feel
yeah.
them. I can feel them coming
yes.
out.
Okay, so what about security? You have your feature flags. You have opened your features through a REST API.
Okay.
So anyone can
Oh
know.
yeah, you don't want.
Anyone can know if the
That's
features
kind of a big hole there,
enable
right?
or not. Maybe somebody can enable or disable your features.
Someone who wants to mess with your system
using
or just
the
think it's
REST
fun
API.
or,
Yes.
yeah, totally.
So using the web UI, using the REST API. So I need to secure all the things.
Okay.
Very strong
Yeah,
security,
definitely.
even using certificates to make to make things very safe. And from this point of view, we notice that the UI to enable or disable the features should be externalized from your application to have a dedicated backend application with the UI protected, access only on premise.
That's a good idea.
And the microservice don't host the UI, just have the secure REST API to be able to get order from a centralized administration console.
Okay, yeah, that all makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And maybe for people that are already using feature flags, at a point in time you have to clean the features because if your features are temporary and it's not anymore available, you will have to remove it. So when to decide when it's time to remove features? Well, if you have all your application feature-driven development, as I say, because any new capability of your application will be features, no problem. You can keep your features to do that. But if you start to nested the features, then came the trouble. If there are two features nested, you do not how to behave if one is off and the other is down, and depending on the order, it will be a mess.
Right.
So as soon as you have to nested features, ring bell and start to refactor your code and remove features for that.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of good takeaways there. So what's next? Like, what's coming? Right.
Oh, yes. So we are now 7 people working on the framework with 400 stars on GitHub. Rising.
Wow.
Wow. And we are actually...
A lot more stars in Killer Video.
Yes, just a little bit. And we are preparing the version 2 to support Java 8 natively. Like Spring, to next version will be only from Java 8. And because from now it's compatibility up to Java 1.5. Right. So now it's time to move. And maybe also to add new DB. And we think a lot about the cloud as well, and to provide support for AWS DB or cloud storage engine from Google, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, wow, that was fun, and thank you for all of the awesome information on feature flags and your library. And with that, thank all of you for watching the Distributed Data Show. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us again for the Distributed Data Show. We love your feedback, so go to the Distributed Data Show page on DataStax Academy and tell us what you think. You can also find us on the DataStax Academy YouTube channel or find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get great podcasts. While you're there, make sure and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.